On a day in October, Nina practices her scales. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. She pictures her lover, Vladimir, sitting outside the studio, listening to her, and she smiles for him. He is handsome, strong, and powerful. She is 19 and has her sky blue eyes focused on singing at the Met. The opera season starts in the new year. Again, Ninotchka, her vocal teacher shouts at her, wakening her from her reverie. Try to stay awake for your lesson. Nina has been dreaming of singing at the Met in the US since she was 5 years old. After her audition, this will come true. She must work harder and must listen to her instructor. Vladimir will be proud of her. He is doing so much to make Russia a strong nation once again. He is her hero. Her lesson is not going well. Her instructor is angry with her. What is wrong with you, Ninotchka? The teacher asks. Your voice is wonderful, clear, and strong. Why can't you use it to sing more vibrantly? She vows to do as her teacher wants. It's important to remember in order to win the audition. It's a contest to see who will get the treasured positions at the Met. It's difficult, but she knows she can. She has the range, the volume, and knows the script perfectly. When Nina emerges from the rehearsal room, Vladimir embraces her, holds her head against his strong chest. With his free hand, he caresses her long hair. Don't ever cut your beautiful hair, he whispers. I will bring you combs with diamonds to grace your locks, he says. She wants to be beautiful for him so she can accompany him when he picks up his medals for bravery in Moscow. He'll be a hero to the world by then, she thinks, not only to her. It's too bad the common people are suffering, but it is for a better cause, a noble one, to reunite Russia. Nina is firm in her belief that Vladimir will save her country, the Russia that she loves. Nina hums the aria from La Boheme that she had memorized for her audition, hums it quietly so no one will recognize it. It's the aria she sang to the committee. They had dismissed her and sworn she would never be a Met star because of her support for Vladimir. Should she try for La Scala or Lyric Opera of Chicago? Another favorite role of Nina's was Anne Boleyn, the wife of Henry VIII. Will she end like Anne, that doomed queen? Why was her audition not successful? She did everything her teacher told her. Was Vladimir wounded as he fought in the war? Will they ever be together? Opera was her life, but that day in October will resound through time.
Nina had questions, but no answers, not just about the audition and her career, but about the anti-Russian feelings echoed all around her in America. Her dreams of the Met had brought her to America, and though her heart flew to her beloved Russia and to her lover Vladimir, seeds of doubt had been planted. Nina had grown up in a small town near the Russian-Ukraine border. There were generations of both Russians and Ukrainians living there, a small community of creative people. Most of the families farmed, traded, shopped at local farmer markets. They shared in all aspects of life. Importantly for her, they also shared in the schooling of the children. It was one big family. One of the great stars of the Russian opera stage, Anna Anfisa, had married a country boy, given up her career, and moved to Nina's home village. She became an integral part of the community, teaching classes for voice and stage. It was where Nina's own career in singing began and was nurtured. In honor of Anna, Nina learned Anna's favorite opera, La Boheme, and practiced it to perfection. The time for Nina to study professionally took her to Kyiv, the capital and cultural center of Ukraine. People from all over Ukraine, from Russia, and from around the world came to Kiev to immerse in their art. And so it was that Nina went to Kiev to prepare for her auditions. It was there she met Vladimir, who pursued her with a diligence she had not before experienced, speaking often and devotedly of Russia's destiny and the potential unification. Her own belief in the reunification of Russia was born in this way, nurtured in no small part by Vladimir's persuasive rhetoric. Vladimir had come to Kiev already decorated as a student of upper level military. They met at a school gala to which a group of young soldiers attended. The shimmering energy of the evening lit up many a heart. Vladimir became so attentive to her, her heart was awash with love. Vladimir fantasized hero scenarios, making her, Nina, the on-stage star of his great decoration events. Nina's own dream now approached, the American audition for the Met. Preparation took her to the Met prep school for training. She missed Vladimir and found it hard to concentrate. Her thoughts of Vladimir were distracting. No less distracting were the rumors of political unrest in her beloved home. The story of La Boheme played in her mind and spirit in ways that had not before occurred to her. A story of a young artist and the girl next door falling in love on a Christmas Eve. The girl was ill and the boy poor, unable to provide for her. They believed in art, beauty, truth, and above all, love. They tried to find their way. The harsh realities of life resulted in a sad end. Anna had given up being a star to become a wife, a mother, a teacher, a lover of earth and humanity. Nina could not help but reflect about her own desire for stardom and about Vladimir's near obsession with military greatness. Now that she thought of it, never a word was said in her home village about politics. It was never discussed by family or neighbors at home or at gatherings. Something mysterious, even shadowed, was beginning to emerge in her emotions and in her psyche. Her pathway was at a crossroads. Nina had recently received a message from her family saying she must stay in America, pursue her career. They said she would be more safe. In a matter of days, the first bombs fell in Kiev. Another message came: stay in America. We love you. May it be the will of divine spirit that we see each other again. Remember, the stars in the sky above are for us all. And so it is.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so honored to have been paired with Priscilla. Mwah, mwah. That was a great start, a great starting piece.
Thank you. That was a great ending.
Oh, thank you, Priscilla. We have to chat. I have to chat to you about La Boheme. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a story titled Implausible Results by Mary Ellen Campbell and Naughty Bumbo.
Clutching the small pink and white box, Angelina walks down the liquor aisle to push open the door with the sign "Ladies" at the back of the CVS in La Bonita, Texas. I'm not surprised they aren't politically correct in their signage, passed through her mind as she looked around, making sure no one occupied a stall. She ripped open the package, pulling out one of the sticks. Sitting on the seat, she placed it beneath the light flow of urine. Closing her eyes tight, she prayed, "Dios, please don't let it be." The directions on the box said to wait 3 minutes. While she waited, pants down around her ankles, her mind whirled with the memories of that October night. She'd been drinking with her friends for a few hours at Las Brujas. They slowly drifted off, saying goodbyes, until she was the only one left. "One more for the road?" the bartender asked. "No, I'm done." She placed a tip on the bar. "Thanks, Miguel." "Good luck tomorrow. You earned it." Drive safely. Angelina waved at him with one hand while searching distractedly for her car keys in her big black leather bag. A trio of gringos banged on the pool table, loudly challenging each other. Teenagers, she thought, behaving obnoxiously, trying to get attention. Walking across the dark parking lot, she ticked off all the things she needed to get done in the morning. I hope I don't wake up with a hangover. Tomorrow is a big day. I hope I don't mess up. Maybe I can eventually get out of this dump.
Okay, we need a finisher.
I'm the
There we go.
finisher. Okay, hold on. I just forgot to unmute. Where is it? Where is it? Yes. But I did wake up with that feared hangover, didn't I? She'd forgotten almost everything that happened starting halfway across that parking lot, and she made the leap to the obvious answer. Someone had slipped her a roofie, taken her somewhere private and raped her. That was the only thing that made sense. She was outraged, mad as hell at who? She went to the clinic as soon as she could wobble to the car. They gave her morning after pills and urged her to submit to a rape kit exam. But would that matter after the pills? It happened all the time in this world. Or why would that matter after the pills? It happened all the time in this world. But she reluctantly agreed, getting home late and feeling sicker than ever. It took her till near 3 a.m. to finally fall asleep. As she slept, she dreamt of being beamed aboard an alien spaceship where she was wined and dined by the alien, quite handsome to be honest. And he could dance. He could cook too. He showed her around the ship, let her marvel at the view of her precious planet from the 300-degree viewing port, where he soon began to caress her hair and shoulders, and she succumbed to his seduction. Had a damn good time too. Angelina woke quite late that next morning. The situation of the day before came back to her mind, fortunately without the hangover. She lay in her bed, pondering her memories and dreams regarding that lost night. I mean, he never actually told me his name, and oh shit, what if I'm pregnant? She looked down at the test stick, knowing the 3 minutes had long passed. She stared at it for a lengthening moment, more in confusion than shock. She didn't expect this. She eventually rose to her feet, pulled up her pants, and placed the stick back inside the package. After a quick cleanup at the sink, Angelina walked to the front of the store and paid for the test kit, not really seeing the clerk at all. She walked to her car and drove home. On arrival, she took the stick out of the package once more. Red was positive, blue and negative. So what the hell was a green result? Maybe her ticket out there, out of here? Well, he did have nice eyes. All 3 of them, in fact. It was
Thank
a good,
you.
it was a great start. I couldn't resist.
Next up, we have a story, Let the Morning Time Drop All Its Petals by Mary Ellen Mynatt and Fisher.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay. All right. It was a fine October morning, the kind of spring-like morning that suspends one's belief winter is on its way. After a breakfast of coffee and toast for me and a bowl of kibble for Duke, we both sauntered into the back room for a quick check of my emails. Seeing they were all only ads, I gave Duke a pat on the head and sang a bit of Paul Simon's song. I got no deeds to do, no promises to keep. Come on, old fella, let's make the morning last. Duke followed me to the kitchen, where I brewed another half cup, to which I added a generous portion of chocolate milk, and the 2 of us padded across the living room to the front porch. I settled onto the porch swing, and Duke found a sunny spot. Both of us being retired, we make quite the pair. He, no longer ready to retrieve sticks or chase the neighbor's cat up a tree just for fun, and me with all the time in the world. Paul Simon's song kept running through my head. Hello, lamppost, what you knowin'? I've come to watch your flowers growing. Yes, I was feeling groovy. I had just raised my mug to my lips to take my first sip when Duke raised his head and let out a howl so startling I spilled all my chocolate coffee down my front. Then he bounded off the porch and raced down the street like a creature possessed. Duke, I yelled, Duke, come back here. But it was no use. He was off, and all I could do was stand there and wonder aloud, now what's gotten into him, do you suppose?
Susan, you're muted.
Old Duke hadn't moved like that for nigh on 3 years. I wouldn't have thought he had it in him. I didn't have much zip these days either. It took me a full 10 minutes to grab my cane and make it down the front steps. I paced up and down our block, whistling and calling his name. No Duke. He couldn't have gone far. I just hoped he'd stay on the sidewalk and out of traffic. Don't leave me, Duke. I don't want to be alone. I quick looked around to see if anyone was nearby to hear me talking to myself. Worn out and worried, I returned to my house. At the bottom of the steps, the cutest little puppy imaginable was rolling around on the pavement. He seemed delighted to see me. What are you doing here, little fella? He looked up at me with sweet brown eyes and jumped about, inviting me to play. Around his neck was a scruffy old collar, 4 times too big. A tag hung from it with embossed letters so worn down that I had to squint real hard to make out what it said. D-U-K-E. It was then that I noticed the familiar markings on the puppy's coat and the funny way he cocked his head first to the right, then to the left. Was I losing my mind? I plunked down on the utility box next to the sidewalk. Dizziness overwhelmed me. I could feel myself fading. My head cleared, and the world looked fresh and extra bright. The puppy was still there. It wasn't a dream. I stood up and stretched. My back didn't hurt. My legs were so strong, I discarded my cane on the grass. Little Duke and I strolled down 59th Street toward the bridge. I felt so boyish I kicked a loose cobblestone ahead of me as I walked. I hoped our companionable outing on this perfect blue sky day would last forever. And it did.
Thank you.
Thank you for that ending. I like that very much.
Next up, we have a story titled Rocky's Advice by Lou Mermelstein and Sharon Bowers.
Oh, okay. It was a late October. Pines swayed in the evening breeze. The crescent moon reflected the ripples of the lake. Dick added some bigger pieces to the fire pit and warmed his hands as the smoke and sparks spiraled into the sky. Dick and Jane had finally found time for their anniversary. They decided to spend a week at their cabin by the lake. No kids, just Spot, their Jack Russell Terrier. Jane came out with a dinner plate and set it down on a chair. Dick put down his beer. Come over here. He patted the space next to him. Jane snuggled into his muscular chest. He gave her a squeeze. Spot howled softly. Jane patted Spot's head while Dick rubbed behind her ear. Spot raised her head, pointed towards the bushes off to the right, and sniffed the air. Ruff, ruff. What is it, girl? Dick stood and pulled out his pistol and released the safety. Jane said, put that thing away. Spot settled down, but was still hyper alert. Dick turned on the LED flashlight on his baseball cap and found a raccoon just below the retaining wall. He fired off a warning shot into the creek below. Birds fluttered in the trees. Spot howled along with the rest of the nearby forest. Put down that thing before someone gets hurt, said Jane. Reluctantly, Dick put his pistol on the deck chair next to his beer. He took a swig and wiped his mustache. That'll make old Rocky Raccoon think twice about coming around here. Just then, a bat swooped past Jane, who screamed, waved her arms frantically, and fled back into the cabin, pulling Spot along with her. Dick jumped to his feet and knocked over the deck chair. His beer and gun went sliding off the deck and over the retaining wall. Jane in the cabin was holding on to Spot's leash, who was howling and pounding on the screen door. Dick's flashlight found the raccoon in the same place as before, but this time Rocky was holding the gun.
Criminy, cried Dick. Put down that gun. No way, replied Rocky, baring his pointy little teeth. Do what I say or else you'll regret it. In your dreams, Dick. Unbelievable, Dick muttered. Jane must have picked some extremely wild mushrooms for our dinner, because this isn't happening. Yes, it is, said Rocky. Now you can do what I say, or else you'll regret it. You're not smart enough to use that gun. Oh, yeah, says the idiot who can't keep me out of his trash can. Haven't you noticed my prehensile hands? Not to mention my razor sharp nails. Who are you calling an idiot? I am the king of the jungle. That's a laugh. You're so scared of nature that you hide behind this pistol. Doesn't matter what's out there. You just want to kill anything that moves. Well, I have to protect Jane and Spot. When are you going to listen to what Jane says? Why she stuck with you all those years is a mystery. Clearly, it wasn't for your brains. Hey, that's enough. Give me back my gun. No, not till you say you're sorry for being such a male dick. I'm not going to listen to a masked varmint attack my masculinity. You feminists are ruining everything. Oh, you poor victimized baby. Quit being such an ass and be a real human being. Did Jane put you up to this? So what if she did? She just wants what's best for you and the kids. Dick hung his head. It's ridiculous to take advice from a furry Sigmund Freud, but okay, what should I do? Start by cleaning the dishes tonight without being told. Jane will take it from there. The end.
Thank you. I like Rocky's voice. Next up, we have a story, Nolo Contendre by Lynn. I'm sorry, Lynn, I'm going to mess up your name. Kiesewetter and Norma Watkins.
Kiesewetter.
Kiesewetter, thank you.
There was a full moon on Wednesday, October 18th, 1967. Early morning news edition, New York Times. Witnesses estimated that over 100,000 protesters gathered for the largely peaceful anti-war demonstration at the Lincoln Memorial this Saturday. Roughly a third of that number then made the 2-mile march across the Potomac to the Pentagon complex in Arlington, Virginia, for further speeches and a sit-in. Saturday evening, thousands still lingered. By midnight, 684 people remained. These were arrested, taken to Lorton Reformatory and Correctional Complex in Occoquan, Virginia, and charged with disorderly conduct. The demonstrators were released late Sunday afternoon once bail was posted, pleading nolo contendere. exhausted. Sleeping on an old sofa, drifting visions of crowds of people standing at the pool in front of the memorial, listening to speeches. Beautiful autumn afternoon, spirits high, beliefs unshakable. Listening to poet Robert Lowell, to Benjamin Spock, to Norman Mailer, and later the 2-mile walk en masse across the Potomac to the Pentagon. Patrick shifts in his sleep, his arm tightens around her. She awakens slightly, cramped and cold, confused. Where were they? They're not at home in Manhattan. Bright, cold moonlight comes through a window. Then she remembers they're at his brother Brendan's apartment, Georgetown, the oldest brother, the Marine. She can almost feel the cold cement of the main concourse where protesters clustered for warmth last night. It was bright as day under the floodlights. Tireless MPs had stood impassive. Were any of them the soldiers who had flowers slipped into their rifle barrels at by the protesters earlier that day? She wondered. And the waning moon, witness to it all, waited to be noticed high above the harsh neon lights. Her watch reads a little past midnight. She puts her cold feet slowly against Patrick's warm ones and holds her breath. He doesn't flinch. She exhales, waits for sleep to reclaim her. Almost exactly this time yesterday, so long ago, it seemed. That disembodied voice over the loudspeaker had said, "Your permit to gather has expired. You are asked to leave immediately. Trespassers will be detained and arrested." And none of the protesters had made a move to leave. "Are you okay with staying?" Patrick asked her, holding her cold hands in both of his. She nodded. Within an hour, the police van started assembling. The moon had reached mid-heaven. Her feet, warmer now, she floats back to sleep in moon glow. Hours pass by in restless slumber. Suddenly a door slams. Brendan is screaming at them as they lie stock still. "What the hell do you think you were doing? Get up, get out of here." His face contorts in anger.
The front door slams behind them. She hears the lock click. What was that about? It's the war, Patrick said. He's never gotten over it. He threw us out in the middle of the night. I know, he thinks we're traitors. He puts an arm around her. She shivers against him. We'll freeze out here. Remember that street we passed in the cab, he says? The one with all the bars? Something will still be open. We're barefoot in our pajamas. We don't have any money. Walk faster and we'll stay warmer. We don't have to buy anything. We'll get out of the cold and some generous soul might give us a dime for a phone call. To call who, she wonders. They don't know anyone in this town except his crazy brother. Her teeth chatter. She clasps both arms around Patrick's middle. Ouch, ouch, ouch. I haven't walked barefooted since I was 7. He puts his arms around her. They must look like one large stumbling insect. Clouds hide the waning moon. The buildings on either side appear blind and looming. The only light, a puddle at each corner. Keep to the center of the street, he said. The light's better. I don't like this neighborhood. Yeah, Brendan doesn't believe in middle-class values or apartments. How far to the street with the bars? A few blocks, I think, maybe half a mile. Are you sure we're going the right way? Almost positive. He steps up the pace. They are trotting now. Men had to act this way as if they knew what they were doing even when they didn't. Her feet were killing her. Maybe we could have begged him to let us back in. You don't know my brother. The whole day's been like a roller coaster. Trying to talk while half running made her gasp. March was such a high, and then we got arrested and lying warm and asleep to you, and then your brother throws us out in the cold. What next? Our own little war, Patrick says. A hoarse voice comes from the shadows. What have we here? They freeze. She hears a click, very like the click of the lock when Brendan shut them out. Don't move, Patrick whispers. That may be your gun.
You froze up there, Norma.
Nope, that was the end.
Okay.
Could she read the last sentence again? Because you got to the climax and I didn't hear that last sentence.
Yeah, we heard about the click and he tells her to, be quiet.
If you could read it, that last sentence, Norma, I'd appreciate it.
Don't move, Patrick whispers. That may be a gun.
Okay, next we have a poem titled A Fine Kettle of Buzzards by Natty Osa and Betty Frenios. So Natty, you're muted.
There we go. Is that okay? One day in October, my love took a walk. About an hour later, he came hobbling back. What happened, my darling? What took you? I asked. A wake of grim buzzards was hot on my tracks. He crossed himself twice, then he kissed his right thumb. I dodged under trees, tried fluttering my hands, while they circled kettles right over my head. They've got my days counted, he murmured, my dear. Buzzards in this belfry, in sympathy I sighed. Just biding their time till I'm carrion, he cried. He took off his coat, was removing his shoes, when we heard a flapping.
This can't be good news. I opened the curtains, peeked out through the crack. Oh, my heavens, there's hundreds. Put your ducks in a sack and get yourself going upstairs to the bath. You smell like a wang doodle. You've uploaded their wrath. So don't come down till you've washed clean as a whistle. They'll disappear soon, I swear on the epistle. If your brains were leather, you couldn't saddle a flea. Use both soap and water. Are you listening to me? He returned 3 hours later, much softer and meek. The buzzards left crying, we'll be back over next week.
Thank you.
That's great. Next, we have a story titled Farewell to the Monkeys by Michelle Blackwell and Holly Tannen.
Great name, Holly. Thank you. One day in October, I decided to experiment with human contact. I've been isolating for months and felt the need. I didn't want anything too extensive. Human contact light. Hello, have a nice day, beautiful weather. It's supposed to get cold tonight. We have a sale on type of contact. I did not want to talk about things, if you know what I mean. So I went downtown. At the corner of Laurel and Main, I was working up to a decision. Should I go south down Main, or should I cut across the street and head toward the train station? The train station would either be packed with people or empty. Neither of those options felt right. So I headed south, thinking the ice cream parlor could be ideal for my experiment. Partway down the block, I saw someone I know coming toward me, and all the sirens in my head went into full-blown red zone. Woo-wah, woo-wah, woo-wah. This is not good. I could cut across Main, but I'd probably get hit by a car. I could turn and make a haste to retreat, but have they seen me yet? If not, they will surely notice when I turn around and may try to catch up with me. What then? How can I avoid talking about things? The Noyo Center was right there, but you could hear people inside. Would I know anyone in there? Possibly. I ducked inside, and thankfully it was all tourists. I didn't even know the clerk. I started to breathe deep when I remembered the person I know on the street is probably coming to the Noyo Center. I'm pretty sure they volunteer there. Is there a back door? Can I hide inside the bull kelp sculpture? No, no to both. And then I see the geodome is open and I almost cry out loud. Whale songs, that's what I need. I need to hear some whale songs. Inside the geodome, there is space. I press the button for whale songs and the little room fills with their eerie melodies. I close my eyes and rock my body to the sound. I realize the whales are talking to me. To me, I finally understand what they are telling me.
Holly, you're muted.
Okay, am I unmuted now? Okay. One day in October, I went for a walk. I had to get out. I did not want to talk. I thought I saw someone I once had known, and my head went into a full-blown red zone. Woo-ah, woo-ah, woo-ah. I shouldn't have come here. I want to go home. So I snuck in the center and hid in the dome. Curled in a ball, feeling helpless and frail, I hit a red button marked Song of the Whale. I almost cried out as I lay on the ground. I closed my eyes and I rocked to the sound. How long has it been since my spirit soared free? Then I realized the humpback was singing to me. Farewell to the monkeys who butcher the lambs with your minuscule brains and your 5-fingered hands. You think you're so smart, you invented the wheel. Now you're killing yourselves with your guns, germs, and steel. A flipperless biped rang the voice of the whale. Let the primates die out. Let the insects prevail. We pray that the land's not too blighted to heal, as you kill yourselves off with your guns, germs, and steel. Long ago, my own ancestors lived on the land, but the land got too crowded, as I understand. Our elders conferred, and they chose to be free. So they met on the shore and slid into the sea. Now we care for our young in the waters below. We feed them and teach them what they need to know. We don't give a fluke what you hominids feel as you kill yourselves off with your guns, germs, and steel. We are not oppressors, we are not oppressed. We take what we need, we're at peace with the rest. And as he swam by me, I swear that he winked. We'll all dance in the ocean when you go extinct.
Thank you. Our last story today is titled Plotting the Fixed Point of Wind on a Two-Poodle Day by Nona Smith and Rob Hawthorne.
Ever since I can remember, Numbers have been a comfort to me. They're solid, dependable things. Unlike people who tend to be mercurial, numbers don't change from day to day. I can always count on 1 + 1 adding up to 2, 6 × 6 equaling 36, 24 divided by, well, you get the picture. Percentages, fractions, columns, graphs, schedules, they're all in my comfort zone. I look for patterns everywhere, and I'm a detail-oriented person. So when the woman in the ruby-colored puffy coat appeared in the park, I noticed her. She was out of the usual order of things. The day I discovered I could earn a living working with numbers was a red letter day for me. I'm now a certified public accountant working from home, making my own schedule. The only downside of my job is that it's sedentary. But because I'm in charge of my agenda, I keep mid-afternoons from 3 to 4:30 free to exercise. Every day at 3 p.m., 7 days a week, I walk across the street to the park. By my Fitbit, that's 721 steps. And I head for the paved walking path that circles the lake in the center of the park. I jog around the lake 3 times, which adds up to 2.65 miles on weekdays and 453 steps longer on weekends when young skateboarding hoodlums hold a portion of the park hostage with their boards and ramps. I've tried to tell them it's a public walkway, but their responses always come in the form of finger gestures. If they were less rude, I'd show them how to set up a GoFundMe account so they can raise money to rent time at the indoor skateboard park on Delaware Street. But they aren't, so I won't. I much prefer exercising on weekdays when a gentler crowd of regulars uses the park in the afternoons. I know I'll run into the middle-aged guy with expensive running shoes and an extensive workout wardrobe. He always nods at me as he speed walks in the opposite direction. 5 young mothers with strollers consistently gather at the south end of the lake where 3 mallard couples congregate amongst the reeds. Sometimes the mothers bring bags of bread to feed the ducks, but not every time. A group of older gents, 6 to 9 of them on any given day, sit at the picnic tables bent over chessboards. And then there's the young man who walks dogs. I like to think he's found a way to turn his passion for dogs into a living, the way I've done with numbers. Didn't take me long to catch on to his schedule. On Mondays, he walks 2 elegant standard poodles. On Wednesdays and Fridays, these 2 are joined by a golden retriever who lopes along beside them. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, he's pulled sideways by 5 little yappy dogs of mixed breeds who nip at each other's heels and work their leashes into a tangle. He doesn't come to the park on weekends, perhaps because of those skateboarders. I spotted the woman in the ruby-colored coat one day in October because she wasn't one of the regulars. Sitting on a bench and facing the lake, her coat caught the light in a way that caused it to sparkle like a jewel. The detective who came around weeks later showed her photograph to the gents playing chess, to the mothers and the dog walker. He even stopped the speed walker with the expensive shoes mid-stride, asking each of us if we'd seen her. Yeah, sure, I told him, on the 3rd Monday in October. Are you sure it was a Monday, he asked. I'm certain of it, I said. It was a 2-poodle day.
When he was satisfied that none of us knew anything about the lady in the red coat, he handed out his card and asked us to contact him if we remembered anything else that might be helpful. The skate hoodlums pushed their noses up and made grunting noises. One even made a comment about the smell of bacon as he passed by their shoddily constructed ramp. After I got home, I couldn't help but think about his investigation. Why was he looking for this woman? Was she wanted for questioning? Was she missing, perhaps murdered? The number of variables were nearly endless. I counted 6 lights in my house as I turned them off and sat down at the desk in my office. The desk light stayed on. 3 sharp pencils, 1 brand new sharpener, 2 large erasers, 145 sheets of grid paper. All of it for the task of finding the answer to this puzzle I'd been faced with. Centuries ago, Bishop Wim Lecter used mathematics to create a miracle. So I told myself that if one man could use numbers as a Pythagorean dream to find the fixed point of wind, I could find one missing woman in a red coat. In 1 hour, I reminded myself that math is a language of nature. I calculated the steps from the angles of all entrances of the park to the bench where I met the woman. I then came up with the number of steps it took to go from any of those points from the bench, or to any of those points from the bench. Oddly, it's 3 steps less. This perplexed me and caused me to pause for a cup of coffee. By hour 2, it was 10 p.m. The late night was upon me and I still had nothing. If everything around us could be understood and represented with numbers, where was she in the grid? What numbers was she represented by? I recalled a man who taught what he called chaos magic, wherein the name of one person is broken down into numbers and reassembled as a sigil, which would be charged by a mantra, also of numerical construction. I looked at my clock, 11:13 p.m. I'd crawled into the 3rd hour and this puzzle was only more puzzling. I pulled out a new sheet of paper. On it, I graphed all of the points I'd gotten from the last method. It's true that if you graph the numbers of any system, you'll eventually see patterns. That's all I needed, a solid pattern. So I calculated more steps. I assigned seemingly random elements their numbers and added them into the equation. Then I graphed all of it, and before I knew, I was singing the mantra to charge my very own sigil. I stood up and looked at the images I had scrawled on the interconnected pieces of paper. There was a sphere divided in the center by what looked like a wedge at the very top. A scribble of poorly written numbers on the upper left of the sphere seemed to be the point where everything culminated. This was my fixed point of wind. This is where the lady in the red puffy coat went after I met her on the bench in the park, but I still had to find out where that was. 12:02 a.m. and my wheels were turning. The 4th hour of my investigation would be my final hour. Now, I'm not an occultist or a religious zealot working on theorems to find my way closer to God, but I knew I was close to finding something. I looked at 3 maps of the area and overlaid them with the image I'd created on my desk. After aligning and realigning several degrees this way and several degrees that way, it finally snapped into place. This woman in the ruby colored coat was at 417 Haverton Street, right near the park. Okay, so it wasn't the smartest thing to do, but I got in my car and I drove there. I parked across the street and I turned off my headlights. It was 12:57 a.m. I'd invested 237 minutes of my meager life to this mystery and I solved it. But when the kitchen light came on in the house, I saw the one thing that I didn't expect. Through that little window above the sink, I could see the dog walker getting a glass of water. That's when I called the police. I raced home and they showed up 22 minutes later. Now it's 3 a.m. and I'm here telling you everything. I know. Yes, I understand my rights. No, I don't need a lawyer. And no, I swear I had nothing to do with the bank robbery committed by these 2 people on Richmond Avenue. I just found out where they hid the money. Thank you. By the way, it was an honor, Nona, to be smatched up with you.
But thank you all writers for your wit and intelligence and talent and for your stories today. They were greatly appreciated, I'm sure, by everyone. Now, turn it back over to Susan. Anything, Susan?
Well, just ditto to everything you just said, and thank you, Catherine, for hosting. And we'll hang around if people want to just have conversation for a bit. Otherwise, we'll see you next month.
Thanks a lot.